sitting here ear to ear smiles because, I grew up in a household where in the 70s, my father was saying, we're headed for trouble. Our medical community is headed for a deep dive troublesome era, because the specialists are specializing so much in one part of the body that they're learning more and more about less and less.
Hey everybody, our mission here at the Heart Coherence Collaborative is to get people in touch with the healing power of the heart.
And we really need your help. Right now, only 1% of viewers subscribe. We are aiming to take that number to 6%.
The reason why we want to do that is the more people that subscribe, the more people in the world can learn the magical practice of heart coherence.
So please help us out. If you've ever listened, if you love this message, please just take a moment to subscribe.
Thank you so much.
Welcome everybody to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We are incredibly excited today because our good friend Dr. Sue Morter is joining us again. And the reason we're having her back on is we had our last challenge and we introduced our community to her work. And everybody has literally been hitting me up saying, Dr. Sue this, Dr. Sue that. I run a men's group and everyone's doing Dr. Sue's work. They're doing your body awake yoga practices, Oming. And so for some reason, you are, well, not for some reason, you are actually amazing. And your work is just spreading rapidly over our community. So it's an honor to have you back.
Oh, that's great to hear. It's such a joy to bring this work forward, and it definitely is its right time and picking up momentum around the world these days. So happy to be here, and I look forward to seeing where we can go a little deeper today.
Yes, I think what people really love is, there's so many books out there where you read about things and you read about spiritual things, but the energy codes are practices. So it's truly changing. Instead of just absorbing into your mind a good idea, it's what am I doing in my body, with my mind, with my soul energy.
Yes, beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself. What the whole idea is, can we implement? Right? Science is showing us amazing things, and do we have the wisdom and the wherewithal to embody those new ideas? Ancient spirituality completely knew this, and that science is now, through our quantum capacity, revealing those same truths. It sort of like allows our left brain and our right brain to kind of come together at the same time in a frequency that is coherent. And the key right now is that we learn to embody that. We learn to know what it feels like and walks like and talks like to be these truths that science is now telling us we're capable of, and ancient spirituality was telling us we always were. We're sitting at a pinnacle moment right now in humanity to really be able to harness this greater, deeper truth and bring it to life so that we stop suffering in all the ways that we are conjuring up to suffer in this world. So I'm thrilled. Let's dive in. You name it. Yeah.
Well, I would love to, just to open it up, just a little bit, I would love to hear your journey that arrives you at creating the energy codes.
Sure. Well, first of all, I was raised in a home of a pioneer in energy medicine. It wasn't called energy medicine at the time. At the time, actually, energy and medicine would never have been used in the same sentence together. But my father was a pioneer in using bioenergetics, the body's energies, to heal. And so he was truly discovering back in the 70s that our thoughts and our felt sensations in the body were completely going to determine our ability to heal or not. And so he was developing healing techniques as I was a kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. He was developing bioenergetic synchronization technique, which is something that I teach today with some additions to it based on what quantum science has shown us in the last 40 years. But in growing up in that household, I of course was exposed to the fact that everything is energy, and how we manage our own is going to determine the life experience that we are having. And then I was drawn to meditation, and I started meditating, and instantly started having transcendental experiences, multidimensional experiences, where my consciousness was just at warp speed, just opening and opening and opening to higher and higher states of visionary capacity. And I had no idea what was going on. It wasn't something I was trying to do. It wasn't even something I knew about. So there was no goal-oriented achievement associated, which I'm really glad, because if I'd have known there was something I was supposed to go accomplish, I would have gotten so obsessed with accomplishing it that it never would have happened, right? Because that's the key, right? So I stumbled upon it in terms of waking to a bird's eye view on who we are and what it is that we're doing here. And so what happened was I found myself suspended above the earth. The earth was about the size of a marble beneath me. I could see it, below, but I was that exalted above, this realm that we look at every day as what is reality. And I could see in a spherical manner in every direction equally at the same time. I didn't have to move my eyes to look up or down or in front of me or behind me. And I was in a brilliant light, so brilliant it was 10 times brighter than the brightest day in the desert I had ever seen. And I didn't want to get away from that light. I was part of it. It just kept opening and opening. And I was me, but I wasn't in a physical body. I was a ray of light. And I'm getting to a point that's, I think, very relevant to your conversation. But this light was descending through me as this ray and into the earth. And as it was doing so, it was becoming a different vibrational frequency. And that vibrational frequency that it was becoming as it would move down through me was the vibration that we call love. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that light was becoming love every time I took a breath. Every time I would take a breath, this light would compress into this vibration, and this beautiful pink iridescent, this translucent horizon, this blanket would rise up on my inhale and lower on my exhale. And I knew that it was literally breathing this vibration into this realm that we are sitting in right now, having this conversation. And I knew that this was true about every one of us. And it was as if I had always been there. I knew that was the truth of me, and that this other thing that we're doing here in these bodies was just a project. And the whole project was to determine how good would we get at remembering who we really are while we're in the game, while we're in this project. And so it became a life-changing moment for me. And I wasn't using any psychotropics or psychedelics. It was, it was just good old-fashioned meditation that was happening. And the lucid awareness was so real, you guys. It was more real than sitting here, talking to a camera, sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in, touching this body. It was literally more real, and had a tremendous impact on me for weeks and months to come, in terms of me being able to embody it and integrate and infuse this light that I had been exposed to into my regular repertoire of how do we function in the world. And it took me years to navigate it and to figure out how to implement that in the ways that would end up becoming the energy code. So I think the reason that this work is appealing to so many people is that I'm coming from a certain place when I speak about it. I'm not talking about something, I'm speaking from that place and trying to share this greater truth about who we are with people. And we inherently know this, when I'm speaking with people, they get it, they understand, even though they may not have had an experience like that. It reverberates at a deep cellular level. And the good news, what I'd just like to say lastly about that, is that there was nothing missing, there was nothing broken, there was nothing wrong, there was nothing to achieve or to accomplish or to become. I was wholly whole, completely complete, and I knew it. And then after that was over, when I dropped back down into the body, opened my eyes, and, was looking around the room with, 300 other people that were in the room at the time, I knew that my life purpose was recalibrated forever. And that what really I had to do was just kind of share with people that, it's okay. We're all okay. We're more okay than we think we are when the movie gets going and we're really, caught up in it. And to build the circuitry within the body to sustain this bird's eye view perspective is really all we need to do. So I'll stop there and see where you want to go with it. But
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that perfectly describes my experience with your work. I appreciate you saying all that. It's wonderful to hear that you're talking about this energy that exists, right? That's just so powerful. And you've found a way to lay out this framework for people to get in touch with that energy. That's beautiful. And your work's not like crazy. It's not like you have to like, go on some crazy retreat. You can literally just go outside in your front yard and start practicing these things. So one thing I've become fascinated with learning about recently, because I've been studying your work and I've actually been starting to get in touch with this energy and feeling it in my life. And it feels amazing. Like I'm a different person now than I was when we did our last interview, because I have an interaction with this energy. So my question to you is, what is body awake yoga? How has it taken traditional yoga and then added in this beautiful energy to create something that's a lot more enhanced?
Oh, beautiful. So many, many years ago, I was taking a group of people to Bali, and I just wanted to go to Bali in meditation. It was the first journey awake, first trip I had taken, and about 35 people said, we want to go with you. So we went. So as part of the tour package, they offered yoga classes in the morning at this beautiful retreat center in near Ubud in Bali. And so here we are in this rainforest, the monkeys are out, the jungle is there, and it's all happening. And this yoga class starts in this room that has no walls. It's just open, just an open place with a roof over it. And the young man, Wyan was his name, started in on the yoga class, and I went into a couple of poses. I wasn't a yogi at the time. I was a meditator. I had done yoga a few times, but I realized that as we were like 3, 4, 5 minutes into this class, that I was hitting these states of deep consciousness that would take me 45 minutes to get into in meditation. And all of a sudden I was just there. I was there because I was breathing in my body in a very deep and concentrated manner, the way that I did in meditation, but I was taking it to the yoga mat at the same time. And I would notice that I was hitting these deep states of consciousness so rapidly that I couldn't take my eye off of it. And so that was the initial part of where body awake yoga came from. The next thing that happened was several months later, as I came home from Bali, I was on the yoga mat all the time because of what was happening every single day. No one could keep me off the yoga mat. And I went to a class, and a guy was teaching a class that was really slow. And I was, I wanted him to go faster. I don't know why, I just wanted him to go faster. and kind of as how my life was sort of at the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, whatever. And I was just kind of rolling my eyes through the first part of the class. And then I was like, Sue, you got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive, to get ready and leave the house at 5:30 to get, half an hour away, yoga studio. And you've gone to all this trouble. You might as well enjoy this yoga class while you're here, slow down and just enjoy it. And so I did. And as I did, this immense misty white substance kind of spaciousness kind of filled my body. It was a bizarre experience for someone who'd never experienced that. And it was, I could witness myself moving as this essence, not as a personality in a body being irritated about how slow the yoga class was going. Instead, I slipped into another realm, another version of who we are. I could hear the instructor and I could follow what he was saying, but I was fascinated with what was happening here I was awake at the level of energy itself, I guess is the easiest way to say it. At the spiritual level, we are invisible, but we are here. And I was tapping into that version of me for one of the first times outside of a meditation effort. So all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, you're going too fast, slow down. I need to pay attention to what's going on here. This is miraculous, what's going on. So, moments before I was aggravated at the instructor for going too slow. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a second, slow down. We need to like really absorb this. And And I started recognizing that there is a way that we can do yoga that taps us into a deeper version of who we are, the true soulful self. So think of it like this. The soulful self is like the center of a tree, and the rings of a tree, like we all know about the rings of a tree all the way out to the bark. These rings of the tree are versions of ourself that are like the ego, the protective personality, the performing personality, all these layers. And what Body Awake Yoga does is it slips us right back in to the pulp. It slips us right back into the center of the tree, the center of our own essence, while we're going through yoga asana. So yoga asana is a yoga position, and they are based in sacred geometries. Okay, so this is pretty cool. It's a little science, a little ancient spirituality, all wrapped up into one. But the reason that yoga positions are what they are is that they put the body into shapes that cause the energies of the body to move more efficiently or more profoundly in the ways that are necessary to integrate the energy centers of the body, the levels of consciousness that are associated with those chakras, etc. So it's a practice of embodiment of higher consciousness. If people understand that that's what it is, then it gets to be that. So Body Awake Yoga is bringing that back to life. And there are many moments in my life early on after this opening happened in 2000 and 2001, as these openings started happening. I would wake up in the middle of the night and my body would be in these yoga positions, in these geometrical shapes. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't a yogi at the time. So I was like, what is going on here? What is going on? I don't know how to twist around here. And I would go to the clinic and try to share with my best friend, one of the other doctors in the clinic, what was happening in the night. And I couldn't even get my body into the position that it was getting into on its own in the middle of the night. So I was like, oh my God, the conscious mind is interfering with what we think we're capable of. And yet when we get the mind out of the mix, which is what happens when we're asleep, we're able to move into these different states of consciousness, and in this case, different positions of the body. So I started just putting all this together, and I realized that Body Awake Yoga could be a real benefit to building the circuitry of the soul, building the circuitry for our conscious mind to become aware of a deeper version of who we are. And it can do it in rapid form. So I started teaching it in my workshops, in my retreats, and people started escalating in their progress. They started profoundly transforming rapidly, like you said, because we were in it. We were embodying it, not just talking about spirituality, but we were embodying those energies as if they were us, because they are. And so I love that we have 120 countries joining us in Body Awake Yoga for our monthly membership, that people plugging in from all over the world, and we get together and do these practices of anchoring the consciousness back in the core of the body where it belongs, in a manner that allows people to feel it and live it and breathe it and animate it and think like that and walk like that and talk like that. Once you get off the mat and are engaging in your daily life, you feel a centered version of yourself that, talking about it doesn't give you. And you feel capable and tapping into deep wisdom that staying in your head doesn't allow you. And so it gets you down in your body instead of allowing you to continue to live in your head, overthinking and analyzing and processing life from that perspective. So all my answers won't be that long, but it's a thrilling thing that came together. And I love that people can jump right into that and not even really be a student of mine in the deeper coursework that I teach, and really glean amazing transformative, realities from the practices that we're doing together.
Yeah, I would love to hear you expand a little bit on what you were just talking about near the end. We're so focused on the mind and trying to get well through the mind, and it just really doesn't work for a lot of people. So I'd love to hear you talk about, as we grow up and we endure whatever traumas we go through, what happens within the mind-body system, and then how does that get healed, and why do we need to go into the body to do it?
Beautiful. So, when we get into the body, what happens is we're accessing additional layers of our being, our wholeness, additional portions of our wholeness, additional ingredients in the whole recipe. We're accessing more of who we are than if we're just living in our head, because the body acts as a filtering mechanism. So think of it this way. There are 11 billion bits of information bombarding the body every millisecond. That's a lot of information coming in. And it's cosmic intelligence. It's what's to be known. It's all of the information that exists. It's bombarding us all the time. But we can't translate it. It doesn't come straight to our mind and we can then spit it out. It comes and hits the levels of the cell, the layers of the cell wall, with these little antennas that are constantly picking up the information from the environment. They're picking up on these energies from our environment. And then those little antennas translate that information inside the cell and tell the cells of our body what chemistries to generate, what to turn on, what to turn off, all the way down to our DNA, and all sorts of instructive mechanisms inside the body are being influenced by this energy that is bombarding us constantly. So if we're just living in our heads, if we're thinking all the time and trying to heal ourselves and make our life better, and we're living up there, what happens is we miss the filtering mechanism that the whole physical body is. So here's how it works. This energy comes and it descends right to the earth, and then it rises up through the body and starts turning on these different levels of consciousness based on these cells in the body and what kinds of energies there are interplaying. And that energy rises up through the heart and turns on neurotransmitters and all sorts of things that the heart is also generating that we never thought the heart was capable of generating, but it does. It's a whole world of its own. And it takes that information and translates it into what has heart and meaning to us, what is relevant to our personal evolution, what's really going on for us. And then it continues to rise up through the primitive brain. And if it's coherent, it will transcend the primitive brain and integrate into these high brain centers in such a fashion that we turn on our ability to create, instead of defaulting back into our reactive self that is protective in nature or performing in nature as a false version of who we are. So the reason that we want to be in the body is that the body acts as a filtering mechanism that takes this universal intelligence and turns it into actual images and thoughts and ideas and solutions to problems that we've been walking around with like nothing else can do. And so being in the body allows us the support of translation, because the root chakra, the energy centers low in the spine, the first, second, and third, they translate information in terms of I belong, I'm a creator, I am ancient wisdom, I am universal intelligence, I'm a cosmic presence, and I am here to live into this life with the intelligence of a multidimensional being. And if we're not in the body in those areas, enlivening those aspects of our consciousness, we have a really hard time believing that that's true. So we don't act like it's true. We start trying to fit in and trying to belong and making sure that, we're popular or that we're liked, or that, all that stuff that is just, a misuse of our life on earth. It's just a waste of our time, but that's what we get caught up in doing. So healing happens as a byproduct of us dropping into the body in this way. And as we do, we begin to activate our true magnificence. And healing happens as a byproduct of activating our true magnificence. When we step into our wholeness, healing happens as a byproduct of that. It happens like out of the corner of your eye. It's not something you're trying to do. It happens because we're no longer distorting the energy field the way that we were before. And when we stop distorting that energy flow, we allow for ideal function to instill itself in our bodies and in our lives. So that's the body piece. Ask me the first part of your question again.
Oh, I was asking, I think, what specifically happens as we grow up and endure certain traumas in terms of, what's getting injured or displaced.
Yeah, excellent. So here's what happens. When we encounter something that seems bigger than us, we drop down into our survival self. And we start shutting down our creativity so that we can focus our energy on how do I survive this thing that is bigger than me. you know, there's someone behaving in a way that I don't understand, or there's someone abusing me in a way that I can't control, or there's something happening that is shutting down different aspects of my ability to process what's happening. And I've not yet learned how to keep my flow happening because I'm only 4. You know, I'm 6 years old. I don't know. I just got here. You know, I landed, I splatted, and I haven't pulled myself back together yet. And so I'm depending on my external environment to guide and to help and to support. And when that external environment isn't guiding or helpful or supportive in the ways that we think we need, we shut down and we move into a real sense of survivorship. And so under the guise of survivorship, we're not in our creative healing capacity. We're just trying to get by. We're just trying to make ends meet and make it work. And so those aspects of us that have shut down, those premature conclusions that we have drawn, they start disconnecting even more so these lower energy centers. And so we move further and further into survivorship because those energies aren't intermingling, and wisdom and personal power and a sense of belongingness aren't talking to each other. And those messages are never getting their way all the way up to our conscious awareness. So we're walking around thinking, you know, life is not okay. It's not easy. People aren't to be trusted. It doesn't work. You know, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this to just make it in the world. And that's a limited reality that we're creating for ourselves. And so, you know, childhood traumas can do everything that I just described, and they can also set us free. And that's the point inside the energy codes and all the work that I'm teaching, is that at some point we get tired of the effects of having interpreted it as overwhelming and wrong and too hurtful and short-circuiting, and or even creating guilt or shame or fear because of those experiences, and not wanting to reproduce them or recreate them or live through them again. It creates a very limited version of what reality is. We're only using certain circuits. And we can take those same happenings when we get tired of living in that small version of self and of life. When we start feeling the confines of being compressed into a smaller reality than what we really are, we start seeking and searching. And that's why people are connecting with you guys and, you know, watching this and participating in your challenges and doing what you're doing, because they know there's something more. There's got to be better than this tiny little thing that I've created. It's cramped in here. You know, it used to feel safe, but now I've outgrown it, and I need out. So we can take those childhood traumas and actually use them to catapult us into our higher and higher selves, our transcendent selves. And that's the point, actually. It is ours to look back into those circumstances and not only see them from this perspective, what did they give me? How did I grow? How could I grow? If I could reach inside of myself and forgive this thing that has happened, then I'd be all the better for it. But I haven't had the wherewithal to do that until maybe now, and I'm interested. So how do I go about doing that? That whole process right there, that little part of the project, starts to cue the mind to start paying attention to something other than the external world and our environment and our experiences and our history and our story, and to start to turn our attention inward to something that is transcendent, that is eternal, that existed before the trauma, and will be here even after it's completely healed. And it's that version of us that we're here to awaken to, that transcendent one, the timeless one, the one who has always been and will always be, and the one who chose to come in the first place. It's that one that we're talking to inside of the energy codes, inside of the work that I'm doing. And so right there, we can work with, you know, how did it make me feel? But most importantly, what you'll learn if you study the energy codes at all, it's not only about the emotion that surfaces when I think about that happening in my early life. It's about where in my body do I feel a charge, or where does my mind go when I ask, where could I build some circuits to better be able to heal from that trauma, or to better come to know the bigness of my being, because I'm still here. I survived that trauma. I'm still here. So there's something in me that isn't smaller than what happened. There's some part of me that is bigger than what happened, or we wouldn't be here talking about it, right? So we want people to get to know, what is that? Who is that part of you that is still here? And leaning in and listening to the possibility that could be healed. And so, one of the things that I encourage people to do is to contemplate accepting that every single thing that happens in your life is in your favor, that it's actually here awakening you to a bigger version of who you are. And as soon as you take on that disposition and look into those circumstances from that place, you will start building circuits to solve that puzzle. But people aren't usually asking that question. They're usually asking, what do I do to heal? Why did this happen to me? How we have to stop people from doing things like this. That's most of our concern, those kinds of orientations that happen because someone's been, dispersed. They've been overwhelmed and splatted, as I call it in the book. So, the whole idea is, how do we pull it back together again? And that's the work. That's the work. And all we have to do is start asking better questions. And the universe has no choice but to answer whatever question you're asking. It has no choice. The moment you start asking an effective question, tiny little photons start rushing into the mix, and to build a constitution of you that is now inhabiting this body in a different way than it did before. Because when I'm victimized and I'm just like, what? Who did, how, what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with you? That's a whole reality. But if I start looking at the same circumstances from this perspective of, whoa, I must be so much bigger than I thought I was, because that really took me out. And this is going to be really good when I get to the point of this one, and I'm interested, because here's what I say, big beings take on big projects, and they oftentimes get started right away before they have a point of reference, before they have any sort of way of combating it. They just get sucked up in it, and they have to. Because you have to get sucked up in it in order to find your way out of it, in order to heal your way up out of it, to find your energies, ground them and plant them, and rise up out of that dispersed state that you got in the moment that those traumas were happening. And as soon as we begin to know that that's the name of the game starts turning. We start changing. It's a game changer, if you will, simply by asking a different set of questions. And one of the most effective ones that someone can cut to the chase and get right to is, where in my body could I build the circuits to be able to sustain such happenings with more grace and more empowerment in the future? And what happens is, I have a little thing here that kind of shows us that this is the bioenergetics. The energy is supposed to just drop down through the body, hit the earth, rise up and cycle out around the crown and around the outside of the body, and come back in at the tip of the spine, and rises up through the body again and cycles around and around. And it's constantly pouring in. It's constantly hitting the earth and rising up again. And that's the way it's supposed to function. And what we're doing is, energy is coming down, hitting the earth, rising up, and here's a trauma, there's a trauma, there's a trauma, there's a trauma. So the energy is like trying to get its way around all these ways that we shut down. And so by getting around those areas of shutdown, it creates a wobble in the rising energy field. And that wobble in the rising energy field creates a distortion in this energy field. The toric field gets distorted. Now this person is standing inside this distortion, looking out at a distorted reality. And it confirms, see, I knew we weren't safe. See, I knew more and more of this keeps happening, all because of our distortions. And so we attract other people into our lives that have a conflicting distortion, so that it accentuates how we bounce off of each other, so that we come to know, oh, I got to go to work on this stuff. and that's how it happens. So we're helping each other wake up all the time. So when we start to turn it and just look at it like this, it's a project of getting better at mastering the energy that I am. That's why I came. It's what we're doing here. It's what we're helping each other do. And when we start to look at it that way, all of life begins to shift. Things don't happen to me. Things happen as a clue for me to see where I could build the circuits. So when I ask this question, where could I build the circuits? What we're doing is building a superhighway straight through these areas, connecting them again so that it can function like its perfected state, instead of compensatory behaviors that we've all, gotten used to, having triggers and don't push my buttons. And I got to tell everybody in my life how to behave so that they don't push my buttons or trigger me in some way. And, life, the universe will not be controlled like that. It's hard. Have you noticed, right? To control everyone so that they don't upset you. So clearly it's not about that. It's about using the upset to realize, whoa, I got some distortions here. I have some circuits that I need to build. And as I do plug in that circuitry, that flow begins to synchronize and harmonize. And the next thing you know, I'm empowered in my life. And I'm sort of like, bring it, bring it. I'm not avoiding things. I'm like, I can't wait till the next time I get upset so that I can see where else I could build circuits so that I can get a handle on this. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to get upset in order to evolve. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, if you do get upset, it's nothing to worry about. It just is a sign that there are still some circuits to build so that this irritation, is quelled, so that this flow is robust, so that I can transcend from the heart through the primitive brain and manifest myself all the way up into these high brain centers in an integrated fashion, so that all of my consciousness is turning on these high brain centers, and all of my consciousness is contributing to a greater way of living and interpreting life and its happenings. So
I love that so much.
I think I was just mesmerized in a trance listening to
right. I hope I didn't put you to sleep.
Oh,
but
no, it was actually it was making me think. It was so powerful, because I'm thinking about, your work and how deeply healing it is, but I'm contrasting it to what 95% of the population is probably doing, when they're not saying, here's a trauma, here's a trauma, here's a trauma, here's a trauma. They're saying, oh, my heart hurts, I'm going to the doctor, and the doctor's looking at just your heart, not the system. They might give you a prescription, and then it's not really helping. So it's almost like you're creating this bridge from where we are to where we should be. And I just want to honor that, because I believe it's a huge problem. It's probably the biggest problem we face in our world, is how we treat our issues.
100%. Kyle, I'm sitting here ear to ear smiles because, I grew up in a household where in the 70s, my father was saying, we're headed for trouble. Our medical community is headed for a deep dive troublesome era, because the specialists are specializing so much in one part of the body that they're learning more and more about less and less. So a specialist began. It was birthed in my lifetime. I watched it happen. I remember when it was just a family doctor, it's pretty much, there was a cardiologist and a neurologist, that kind of thing, but nothing like what we're experiencing today. And so the conversation that you just said, what you just said to me, the statement you just made, is something that I sat around the dinner table when I was 7 years old, hearing my dad say, we're not paying attention to the whole being, and we're headed for trouble. And we have to learn how to integrate and come from the disposition that all of the pieces and parts work when we are truly looking at the causal level and not chasing symptoms the way that our culture has now evolved into. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that the truth cannot be suppressed forever, no matter how smart humanity thinks they are, or no matter how many better ideas they think that we're inventing through the development and the sophistication that it's externalizing our power into knowledge, but it does not possess the power to heal. It's just information. And so what we're talking about here today is how to take that information and return home with the wisdom of integrating the information that's available to us, the wisdom to heal. And it requires coming home to ourselves and learning how all of this fits together, which is why I put several different topics inside the Energy Codes book, which you mentioned earlier today. I put them in there because if someone will address all of those components, they will find their way back to this wholeness perspective that we are speaking about right now. It's right there because of watching my father's clinical experience and his research, and then my clinical experience, and then my own research and my own meditative transcendent experiences. I put all that together and started treating patients and clients and students with all of these principles combined. And when they're put together, it brings it back to some real simplicity again, that allows us to truly be the healer and the creator that we are meant to be in our lives. And so I'm thrilled. In short, I'm thrilled that you're even asking that kind of a question, because, you know, this is where we have to head. It's where we have to go.
Yeah, I would love to hear you talk about, in your experience, do people need to get specific or know what happened, or, you know, kind of attack something in a certain way? Or can we get better by just doing these practices and healing the energy disruptions? Do we have to know or be specific?
Beautiful. It's a great question. You know, the answer is we don't have to know, and we likely will become aware, but we don't have to know to begin. We don't have to know where the trauma started or what it was. Many, many people have traumas significant enough to do the splatting and the, you know, slamming shut of the trap door between the conscious and the subconscious, et cetera. They have those kinds of experiences when they are pre-verbal and pre-mobile. They're in a crib, they're laying there, and stuff's going on in the environment around them. Traumas between mom and dad, issues in the household, traumatic experiences with the exchanges of adults before we're even able to walk. I mean, there's an immense amount of numbers of people that are impacted at those layers of the lifetime, and they don't have conscious memory of it. Now, when we start to build the circuitry, you may be, as you become more and more empowered, you may be driving down the road one day and poof, all of a sudden you have a memory that is something you don't even know where to put it. You don't know where it came from. There's no particular reason, but that you're thinking about it, except for that, your system's starting to heal. You're starting to pull yourself back together again. You're starting to find the real you, instead of operating as the one who splatted in the midst of the traumatic moment. And so when we do start to combine, and what the energy codes does is speed up the process of pulling ourselves back together from the splat and weaving it back together again, it's kind of sewing it back together. And so when those faculties, mind, body, breath, and the true essential soulful self, all of that is coming back together again, suddenly you can handle that moment that splatted you 50 years ago or 30 years prior or whatever. You can handle it now. You're stable enough to be present with it. But in the moment, the reason we call it a trauma was because it was a force of energy upon our system that was bigger than what we had the circuitry in place to withstand. So it just dispersed us. And so the healing process is by those energies coming back together again. So in the process of a lifetime, that's going to happen, but we'd like it to happen sooner than later, right? So that we're not living our life in pain and then healing in the last 5 days, you know, of our life. You know, that's no fun. So that's what we're doing, is we're pulling it forward. And so when you do start to come together in this way, the memory of that, which is stored in the cells of the body, in those areas of, you know, when I say there's a trauma, there's a trauma, there's a trauma, right there, the energy got shut down and pocketed off. And in that pocket, when you're stable, that pocket's going to open. But here's the beauty. You're strong enough now to handle it because of the circuits that you're building. And that's what the energy codes do, is that it builds enough circuitry fast enough that when these things start surfacing, we have the wherewithal to handle them. We have the wherewithal to stay present with it instead of dispersing again. And so you don't have to remember, but you might remember. You know, you just start doing the work. You start breathing in the ways that we breathe to establish different vibrational frequencies and integrative principles in the body, so that all these energy centers can talk to each other, and the levels of consciousness that are associated with them can start to interweave again. And all of a sudden you realize, you know, I don't really have to be an overgiver in my life. I don't have to over try to be accepted and loved. Actually, I'm fine. and and we start to find ourselves operating in a little bit different fashion. And I don't have to take myself out of the game or say no thank you when I really would love to participate. I'm actually fine. I'm good enough to engage. And I don't have to suffer and not have enough money to make ends meet, and to think that, that's just for the lucky people. I don't have to walk around with an attitude or an agitation about people who have more or get to do more than me. I could actually have that for myself too. All of that starts to shift when the circuits come in, and more starts to shift when the circuits come into place and we start seeing in a non-distorted reality. It's all for me. It's all for you. It's all for all of us. And in this distorted version, it's like, it doesn't ever happen for me. It's not my lucky, it's not my lucky day. So we're here to allow that to come together piece by piece by piece. Now, I know we're talking about traumas, and I'm talking kind of, very casually about them. And I also understand that when someone's caught up in that, man, it has a hold of you. And I get it. I lived through that abandonment and abuse issues inside of my family. And, it just made me question, what is love? Who do you trust? How does it okay? And then that got buried. And then I became a super performer, and I tried to outrun the pain that was in there. Didn't even know it, that whole story. But I want to just say to everyone that if you're in something that is traumatic and you are currently getting caught up in it, I don't mean this to be casual. It's very real and it's very big, and it does not have to control your life. It has had an impact, and the impact that it has had has done its purpose. It has awakened you to even be here now. And that is the point of the trauma, is to shake you and quake you so that it can wake you up to another version of who you are that you maybe never would have come to know had you not been through such difficult times. I know that's the case for me. I am so grateful for the abuse and the abandonments and the things that have occurred in my life because of the direction that it pointed me in my life. And I am here now knowing what I know and sharing what I share because of, I know in large part, the traumas that I experienced early on in life and the love that I found because of them, not in spite of them, not I wasn't taken out of the game forever on the love piece, but I had to come at it, from my own path, and each one of us has to do that. And the guidance inside of this work is designed to allow you to find your way through it, but to give you all the tools that you need to weave your path and carve it straight into the kind of life that I'm describing, because it is possible for every single one of us. There are no exceptions to that, And so I just wanted to take a moment and speak to that, because, sometimes it can say like, oh, that sounds good for them, but, they're not vibrating. Someone else might not be vibrating quite in that state of victory right now, and they're feeling really vulnerable. So I just want you to know that I get that, and the work encompasses and embraces, all starting points, I should say, with life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. One thing that I encountered between our last interview and now that really blew my mind was your explanation on oming. Could you just share that real quick? Because I ohm with my friends, and after hearing you describe how you should ohm, what your focus should be on the O going out and the M and Y and all that stuff, it changed everything for me. So could you share that real quick? Because it's something people could do really quickly that could really, as you explained, help them tremendously.
Oh, sure. So, everything is energy, and energy is compressing and compressing and compressing all the way into the physical reality. So the chair that you're sitting on is energy that's compressed. These bodies are energy that's just compressed. So all physical matter is energy that is compressed into form. We shape it into forms. And so if you unpack that all the way out to the unified field of energy, it's soundless and it is pure light. There's nothing happening. There's nothing moving. And when you begin to compress it, the very first compression is a vibrational frequency that we call love, is the tonality of it. And it also generates a sound. And the sound is Om. And And so when we are focusing on the O of an Om, the consciousness, if you allow your attention to just expand, just release and expand into the biggest amount of space that you can find, wherever it lands, just however big that is, whether it's, big as the room you're in, big as the town you're sitting in, big as the planet, big as the cosmos, the galaxy, whatever, just wherever your consciousness goes, go there, just go there. And then when you come to the M, you want to come to the M a little sooner than most people do with an Om. Most people stay on the O a long time, and then the M is just kind of right before you run out of air, and then you're out again. And so what that's equivalent to is lots of expansiveness and very little for me, because the M is the embodiment piece. So we want to reach out to all that is and then bring it home to me, to the body, embodying. The M does that. The tone of vibrates in the body. So a couple of other things to realize when you Om is to open your jaw, like unhinge your jaw, just like, just let it come all the way open, but not forcibly opening it. And so you open the jaw, you open the shoulders, and you open the hips. And because the whole idea is you want all of that O to land in this M, in this body. You want all of the cosmic information and intelligence to land here as a single point of consciousness that I am operating as. And so the O-M. So the Om reaches out, the M drops into the body. And then there is also another tone that is really fabulous, and that's the reflection of the Om, which is Ma, or Moa. All right. So if you think about it, it's the opposite. It starts with an M, and then it rises up out of the body and releases out through the mouth as Ma. All right. So it's very fascinating. But in ancient Eastern culture, they would often chant Om Ma Ta, Om Ma Ta. And what it translates to is Om the mother. It is like the mother divine energy, which is the beautiful heart coherence energy. It's the frequency of combining and connecting and gathering and unifying through love. And so the Ta would shoot that right into the center of the brain. So it's Om Ma Ta. So the Om Ma Ta is a chant that I would highly recommend for people who are really wanting to harness living and breathing and feeling in the body, and allowing that to become succinctly a clear and driving force of the focus of the mind, of the thinking mind, so that the thinking mind is looking for the good, looking for the connection, looking for the beauty in life, rather than what's wrong and how do I survive and how do I get ahead and how do I outsmart them and all those other things that the thinking mind is so good at, but shooting itself in the foot all the time, because it's edging out this vibration of love that's available. So there's a lot, but it's Om, and to drop this open, drop the shoulders open, drop the hips open, come to the M sooner, and then take another breath and allow that to come up and out, and then Ta, just even Ta, 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 just to do that is clarifying to the mind. So
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Should we do a couple? I feel like
maybe we should do a couple just to end.
Sure, why not? Okay, so let's do just an Om, and then we'll do just a Ma, and then we'll just do a Ta, so that it's 3 separate breaths. Okay. All right. All right. So let's take a breath in. Big belly breath, not in the chest. And exhale, Om. And another breath, Ma. And Ta. Ta, 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 ta. You can put them together as well. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Ta in one breath.
Okay.
Ta. So it's kind of hard to translate over Zoom, kind of with multiple people doing that at the same time, but it
We
is
fought for success.
Yeah.
hard.
The instruction, it was so clear. So even if I know I didn't do it, I didn't perform well, but, oh well. But you explained it so well that people will understand and be able to
Absolutely.
listen and do it.
Yeah,
Great.
that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the work you're doing. Like, honestly, we really admire everything you're doing and providing this potential for people, a place for people to go and really tap into this beautiful energy that exists. So thank you. And
Oh,
I don't
my
know, how
joy.
can we support you? How can we support you? How can our listeners get in touch with you? Is there any way? Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. It's drsuemorter.com, DRSUEMORTER.com. And we have a website. We're currently revamping the website too. So within a couple of months, we'll have new stuff out. So if you check in now, check in again in a bit, just to see how we're updating those things. But I do all sorts of things, complimentary healing transmissions every month. And also we have a YouTube channel and lots of activity there, as well as social media. I teach in-person events and also a lot of online training if anyone would like to plug in either of those ways. And we also have the Body Awake Yoga membership that allows you to have 2 new classes every month, and you have access to over 100 other archived, specifically, intricately directed classes. And what I do is I tap into the energy field of the collective that's coming, and we work with moving the energy through together. So people always say, I feel like you taught that class for exactly me. And I did, because I'm reading the energy of the field, and so it's infusing right into the consciousness of the group. So it's the power, that quantum power of the collective is at work in the classes, and you can feel it. And also I take Journey Awakes. I take people to, I'm leaving for France in just a few days, and we're taking a trip to Egypt again this year. And we're always doing sacred sites around the world for people to go and really just immerse themselves in the energy of these sacred sites. And we do all the meditation and all the yoga and all of the conversations and the circuit building exercises together throughout the journeys. So in all of the courses that I teach. So hopefully that's some good starting points for people.
Yeah. And we'll have all that information below. And thank you so much for being you and sharing yourself with the world.
Oh,
We love you.
my goodness.
Thank you.
It is my great joy, something I never thought I would do. I was so shy. I slept in the floor of my closet as a kid because the world just didn't make sense to me. And now it does. So what I realized was we're here to create our life experience, not try to fit into the creation of others, but to collaborate and to find a joyful way of expressing what we find to have heart and meaning, and to give that relevance and meaning. So it's a very different life that I'm living these days. So
Beautiful.
that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So much.
absolutely.
Sending love to everybody.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
And blessings.
This interview is part of our 30-day Heart Coherence Challenge.
During these challenges, we send you a heart coherence meditation every day for 30 days, each designed to bring powerful healing benefits.
Throughout the event, we also release incredible interviews with guest speakers who inspire and uplift, like the one you're listening to right now.
If you would like to join a future challenge, go to www.heartcoherencecollaborative.com and register now. The link is in the description.
We're sending you love and hope you join us for the next challenge. We love you.